have their calls tracked and recorded in HubSpot, whether or not they're inbound or outbound, that sort of thing. And then on the other end of the field, you have dialers that exist largely outside of HubSpot with more functionality. So these tend to be all-in-one solutions like maybe Five9 or Genesis or Close.io. These are systems that act kind of as a CRM, although albeit not a great CRM. They house contact data. They try and manage contacts from within that and keep track of calls and call reporting within that framework. And then maybe they've got some limited integration to push data to HubSpot after the fact, but they really don't exist within it or leverage HubSpot itself to make their dials. What we invented Kixie to do is really kind of merge the best of those two worlds, right? So what we decided we wanted to build and what we ended up constructing was a platform that combined the deep integration of those basic dialers with the advanced outbound call tools and functionality of the more advanced dialers that you guys come across. And then we added in SMS and SMS automation so the customers wouldn't be forced to adopt a sales message or something like that alongside it. Now, I talked a little bit about where we kind of fit into the marketplace as a whole. I'm also going to get into the weeds a little bit, and I'm going to talk to you about exactly what Kixie looks like and how you would use it with HubSpot. So I'm going to have Alex, I guess, pull up Kixie and pull up HubSpot. I think you guys are pretty familiar with HubSpot, so we probably don't have to spend a lot of time showing you how that CRM works. I think you guys probably have the handle on that. But I will show you Kixie, which is just a little Chrome extension. It adds onto your browser, no software to install. You guys can have it up and running and integrate with HubSpot in about, 60 seconds, something like that. And it's going to allow you to dial right out of HubSpot through that little click-to-call icon. So you notice every phone number has a little red click-to-call icon in front of it. You can go ahead and click that icon. It's going to load the number right into Kixie and start dialing. This is probably familiar for those of you who have worked with an AirCall or a dial pad or something like that. You'll know this kind of outbound call functionality from there. And then we add a bunch of other features on top of that. So the ability to leave voicemail drops automatically if the person doesn't pick up, do AI-powered local presence dialing, send and receive SMS, automate calls, a bunch of cool stuff I'll get into right in a minute. I'll have Alex go ahead and he will add you into HubSpot. We'll make a dial and I'll show you that advanced call functionality.
All right. So who would like to be the guinea pig, actually? I would just need somebody willing to provide their email address, which you'd be able to open an email from, and cell phone number as well, or just, direct number as well. Don't jump.
Sure, I'll give it a go.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. All righty. So email address, please.
It is hgoldberg@hubspot.com.
Hey, Hannah.
Oh.
Hi.
Hey, I remember you from Inbound too.
Yeah.
And from my lengthy emails I send you every month or month and a half to
I
bug
like
you about
them.
customer
I use
questions.
them as nighttime reading, and it really puts me at ease. So I keep
that
them
was their
coming.
intention. Yeah, no, I'm gonna compile them at some point.
It's really soothing.
Yeah, I'm looking for a hardback release for the first couple months, and then we'll move to softcover and Audible after that or something. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
And my phone number is, everybody write this down for future use, is 914-522-8224.
914.
I know. Jax, you don't have a 914 still, do you?
Not anymore.
R.I.P. All right, well, do I pick it up when you call? Or do I just let it go?
Go ahead and let it go. Don't.
Okay. No one's going to hear my voice mail thing, because I think I recorded that. I don't know how old I was, but no one needs to hear that.
Okay, firing away.
All right.
All right, Alex is initiating the call. I'm going to have you make note of that teal number in the upper right-hand corner of the dialer, and I'll get to that in a minute, but I don't want to let this go over to Hannah's voicemail message for too long. So in the meantime, what I'm going to have Alex do is, as soon as he hears her voicemail message, but before we can really hear the content and start getting a feel for that message he doesn't want us to hear, we can go ahead and select the voicemail message he wants to leave from this drop-down menu. And what will happen is Kixie will actually hang up the call, freeing you to do whatever else you need to do that day, Alex. And in the meantime, it's going to stay on the line. It'll wait for that voicemail message to end on Hannah's end. It'll leave the pre-recorded voicemail message, and it won't judge Hannah for that voicemail.
Thank you.
So yeah, so it's great. It does everything short of that. And then right from there, from the dialer itself, Alex can go ahead and follow that up with a text message. He can go ahead and click the bubble, type in whatever text message he wants to send. He can also shoot off a text message from a template. And one of the cool things about these text message templates is you can actually autofill information right from HubSpot. So he can have an autofill field for their first name and information, and it'll load that right in, send that off. It really accomplishes two things. One, obviously, it makes the text message seem less canned. But the other really important thing it does is help that text message seem less canned to the telecom that it's being sent to. So a big part of what Kixie's trying to do, especially lately, is prevent numbers from being flagged as spam or being marked as a telemarketer, which has become increasingly a problem, especially for sales teams. They're dealing with a lot of outbound dialing and a lot of text messaging. One of the things telecoms look for is one phone number sending the same text message to a bunch of different people or in repetition. So by personalizing these text messages automatically, it lets them still be quick and efficient in sending them out, but it also prevents their number from being flagged. Now that teal number I mentioned a second ago in the upper right-hand corner of the dialer is another feature of ours that helps prevent the same thing, helps us prevent that number from being flagged, and also helps the number, that phone number be answered when the call is made. It's our AI-powered local presence dialer, which is a mouthful, but I'll kind of break it down. Local presence dialing, you may have heard of. It's one of the things that Salesforce touts from its Lightning dialer, that they can do local presence dialing. It's something that comes up with Five9 or with other advanced outbound call center, services like Connect and Sell, that sort of thing. And typically what it means is a company will purchase numbers in a bunch of different geographic area codes, like your Marriott, right? And you buy a couple hundred numbers in different area codes. And whenever your sales agents make calls in those area codes, it will rotate numbers based on the area code you're dialing, pick a number from the same area code, use that number to make the outbound call, and make it more likely the person answers the call. Cool, great technology, especially 4 or 5 years ago when it was brand new. These days, it's not as novel, and more importantly, it's less important than the number not being flagged, right? So who cares if the number's in the same area code? If that number's been flagged as spam, I'm not answering it. And so what a big company like Marriott has to do is essentially hire an admin or something to try and monitor those numbers. And when the pickup rate falls below a certain threshold, pull the number, maybe replace it with a new one. For small companies, hopefully they catch it early. Oftentimes they just keep making calls and wonder why their pickup rate is low. What we've done over on the Kixie side is we found a way to kind of stay one step ahead of that by creating an AI backbone that does that heavy lifting for you. So what the AI backbone does is it runs analytics on the millions of calls made over our platform. And when Alex makes that outbound call to Hannah, what our system will do is it'll look at the pickup rates for numbers we have in this huge big bank of numbers we have all over the world, like a couple thousand numbers. And it will look at the pickup rate for those numbers, pick a number with a high pickup rate for her area, and use that number to make the call. Hopefully she picks up the call. That number won't be flagged as a spam or marked as a telemarketer simply because of the high pickup rate. It's sort of a way of using almost like electronic Darwinism, right, to establish that these numbers aren't flagged as spam or marked as a telemarketer. If the pickup rate falls below a certain threshold, the AI backbone sloughs it off, replaces it with a new number, and uses that new number to make the outbound calls. One of the cool things about our platform is because these are real numbers and they're not spoofed numbers, if Hannah were to call Alex back on that number, it'll route right back to Alex as if it were his permanent number, right? Which allows you, Hannah, I see your eyebrow raised. It allows you to make a lot of outbound calls, get a high pickup rate, typically about 4 times as likely with our AI-powered local presence dialer as without, and yet still be able to receive inbound calls from those numbers just as if they were permanent numbers. So that's been a really cool feature of Kixie. One of the other really important features of Kixie is our ability to automate voice and automate SMS and trigger automations in HubSpot based on either of those. So I'm actually going to let Alex take us away on that and get into the weeds around that feature.
All right, into the weeds we go. But before that, I just want to summarize basically what David has covered thus far. I like to think of Kixie as providing the HubSpot rep with the ideal calling environment out of HubSpot, right? And in nowhere is that more apparent than in a list view scenario like I'm in right here, in a contact filter view specifically, although you could also do this in deal lists and lists in general. So you have the ability to one-click dial down any given list in HubSpot, and then you can take time-saving, super efficient actions like dropping the perfect voicemail through voicemail drop. Hannah, by the way, you're going to be very pleased to check that voicemail drop. It is actually Morgan Freeman voice impersonator that one of our clients who uses HubSpot hired to actually do his voicemail drop for him,
That's amazing.
which is pretty amazing. Yeah,
It's
we
pretty
actually
hilarious,
suggest,
yeah.
we always suggest it on onboarding calls. We're like, you know what you should do? You should pay a voice impersonator on Fiverr.
He didn't implement it across like 100 agents making outbound
Yeah.
calls. It's hilarious. It's very funny.
It is. Yeah. So again, so you can click the call, you can drop a voicemail, you can have as many voicemail drop files as you want. I have 3 in this particular account. Yeah, you can have 1 for every occasion. And then also you can very quickly send off a perfectly personalized, perfectly templated SMS message out to the contact's phone number as well. And you can include any HubSpot contact property fields within it, you know, the first name, last name, any custom fields you might have. So it's incredibly versatile in that regard. And of course, what David was just talking about, when you make calls, you can leverage our AI local presence dialing, where it's going to show the best local number that can be totally called back to whoever that you are calling out to. Now, if all that wasn't cool enough, we got the automations part of it as well. So at the end of each call, this screen is going to pop out at the HubSpot rep, right? So they're in this ideal calling environment where they're doing all those things, dropping their voicemails and sending off the text. And then they actually have a very easy ability to log an associated call type to the call that they just made, right? Much easier than going into the actual activity, into the actual contact, manually updating that, and only then can it perhaps trigger the workflow that you have based on this call type being logged, right? So we make this a seamless, tight process where we're like, you can scale this. If you're a manager, you can trust your reps to do this. Like you can build workflows based on call types, train them how to do it very easily, and rely on them doing it. So, and it's in their best interest anyway, right? If I know that all I have to do is select left voicemail, send email for demo, and it sends that email for me, why wouldn't I do that as a rep? And I'm certainly not going to forget because it's right in my face. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. And it's going to momentarily, depending on the speed of your workflows, send this pre-templated email over to Hannah's email. And Hannah, actually, if you can hold off on opening it just quite yet, because I have another workflow that I've created that's designed to trigger off of the opening of a marketing email, right? And this is a particular automation that's unique to Kixie, right? The first example is just like, yeah, we're making it super easy to log a call type, therefore any automations based off that make more sense, they're more scalable. In this case, this workflow automation triggered upon the opening of a marketing email is going to send a webhook out basically to Kixie, and it's going to trigger an instant call to one rep, several reps, however you set it up on the Kixie side, right? We call this a lead caller. That's our name for it. So basically the idea being at strategically important times or smart times, you can trigger an instant call to one or several reps when somebody visits your pricing page, you know, internally, when we see a customer add billing, the sales rep that's associated with that is going to get a lead call. So they can immediately verify the account, get them onto onboarding, and no time is lost, right? But you can do it, obviously, any way you can design a workflow. So you guys can have that under your, you know, arsenal. So yeah, so basically, Hannah, if you want to go ahead and open that email, that is going to trigger the lead caller, and we can demo that. Hopefully you got the email. Did you get it?
Yeah, I got it. Do you want me to click on the scheduling? I just opened it, but
yeah,
click on
that's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. In just a moment. Yeah, in just a moment it will.
I also got a text message.
Yeah, that's when I manually sent you the text earlier. There we go. Look at that. So basically, I'm in this lead caller group, right? And I'm experiencing an inbound call, and it says in the teal lettering here, lead caller, right? So I know exactly what it is, right? I accept this call. It's now calling Hannah. Now it's calling Hannah, right? Hannah, you're getting a phone call.
I am.
I'm totally prepared for this call, right? Because I see that it's lead caller. It could be called something else if that's more about, better for the particular sales team. But that's the gist of it. Like, I'm hitting the customer at the exact right time that I want to be, and I can pepper these situations into the sales process, basically.
Our sales teams use this internally for billing. So when a customer adds their card onto the account to move forward with Kixie, we have a lead call set up to automatically go out to the agent assigned to that contact, put them on the phone with that person as soon as they add card and they have questions about contract terms or billing or pricing or something like that. It's a perfect time. It's been a huge boon to our sales teams. But really anything you guys can think of, any kind of creative way you might want to implement or a customer might want to implement automated calls based on events in HubSpot, we can do it. I know that actually, the email open was actually an idea from you guys. So when I was out at HubSpot at Inbound last time, we were talking to you guys. I forget who had mentioned the idea of, hey, is there a way to automate a call based on someone opening an email I've sent them? We're like, sure. And we implemented it. It's been a huge hit ever since. So yeah, whatever creative ideas you guys can come up with.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, David and Alex, this is Mike from HubSpot.
Hey, Mike.
The workflows that you guys are talking about, are any of those installed when you install the integration automatically, or are those things that you have knowledge docs on how to set them up? Or like how, if I'm a customer that's going to be doing this, how much of the work is done for me versus do I set up?
Yeah. So on the CS side, when they express interest in, adding this to their process, we just basically ask them what they want as far as which reps they want called in this particular instance, right? Let's say it was the instance of an email being opened, and we on the CS side build that on the Kixie side for them, and then we simply give them a webhook URL to insert.
And Mike, that's actually a great question. That makes me think I would love to build that stuff with you guys too. So if, we connect after this call, I think a great resource would be if we wanted to work with you guys around you building out a couple of, workflow automations with us that were really built for Kixie, because that would be great. I'd love to have a repository for that sort of stuff too, that we could direct people towards and that you guys had at the ready when you're dealing with customer situations where they were considering Kixie or something like it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, that could be cool. We can talk through this, what those use cases would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we'll connect after the call, because I think that would be great.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And just to be clear, yeah, there are knowledge docs. We have like a how does a lead caller work that's customer facing on our support site. And, and then the CS side just kind of helps them implement it, and ultimately just gives them a webhook URL they have to put at the end of a workflow for the action step. So for the customer, it's relatively simple to do. And on that same note, we also have an automatic SMS functionality, right? So just like this automatic lead call, a workflow can trigger a text to go out from the Kixie SMS number of whoever the HubSpot contact owner is, right? So let's say a lead is rotated over to a certain HubSpot rep. That can be the trigger that sends out an automatic pre-templated, personalized introductory SMS template. Hey, I'm your account manager. Schedule a time with me here for the onboarding call, that sort of thing. And Kixie's going to know from all the data from the webhook, that it's to send it through that particular rep, whoever is the HubSpot contact owner it's been rotated to. So they don't have to manually do it themselves. And next thing they know, the customer has booked a time with them for an onboarding call. No effort on their part.
And what's cool about the SMS automation is they don't have to go to another third-party implementer to do that. Like Sales Message is great for sending text messages, but it is a whole nother platform they'd have to add on in addition to their other VoIP solution. And then you have to kind of merge those communications, and it's trickier and more expensive. Right?
Cool. Does anybody besides Hannah want to give me their contact info and I can demonstrate the auto SMS? In this case, I don't need an
You're
email.
muted.
I can volunteer as tribute.
Okay.
Okay.
This is Mike, of course, yes. Okay.
While you're doing that, Dave, I know that like as we were chatting over email, you'd mentioned some customer examples that you might be able
Yeah.
to share. Curious if
Yeah.
you'd be able to go through those pretty quickly at the end here.
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the two examples I'd like to talk to you guys about would be probably Canopy Tax and then definitely Grant Cardone. I don't know if, for those of you who know him in the sales environment, he's exciting. He puts out a lot of videos. He's been a really cool customer and he's done a really good job of utilizing HubSpot and Kixie together. Yeah.
And the phone number is 978-660-4406.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, I've just set up a workflow that whenever a contact is added and the contact owner happens to be this fellow Andy, it's going to auto SMS through Andy, the contact owner, through his number on Kixie. Go ahead and do that. And we can wait with bated breath here.
Here it is.
Alrighty, and pre-personalized, Andy, any of the content properties, and custom ones can be incorporated into this. So fully, fully versatile in that regard.
Did it fire off?
It did. Am I
Yeah,
looking? Do you want me to respond to it or?
Oh, that's
no.
fine. Yeah.
You're gonna confuse Andy if you do, so you better not.
Okay.
But what's cool is that text message went out from Andy, right? It didn't just come out from a central phone number like they would with sales message or a tool like that. It came out from the individual agent who that contact is assigned to. So it's more, especially for targeted SMS that isn't about blasting out from short code. Kixie's really good at that for connecting individual reps with their prospects and their contacts in HubSpot, and to do that through the automation feature. And one of the neat things, so Alex really covered two things, so he covered one, the ability of Kixie to trigger workflow automations in HubSpot based off of how calls go in Kixie. And that's not really a feature of Kixie so much as it's an awesome part of HubSpot that people don't get to take advantage of as much as they should. So really automations are pretty universal, I think, in their applicability, but they're not universal in their adoption. So people have a hard time adopting workflows in large part because they seem inaccessible to a lot of the less tech-savvy users of HubSpot. And also sometimes it breaks the call flow. So you have sales teams making outbound dials and the idea of them going in to log call types after the fact from within HubSpot to trigger a workflow automation seems cumbersome and breaks their outbound cadence. This lets them do that right from the dialer, right? So and with other dialers that integrate with HubSpot, typically they're using dispositions to do that, which works fine, except it's limited to 6, right? The 6 that are on HubSpot. By using call types, Kixie sets itself apart and allows them to do, a limitless number of different workflow automations you guys have built in HubSpot right from their dialer, which makes it accessible to the average user. And then the other thing he covered is the ability of events in HubSpot to actually trigger Kixie activities. So to trigger outbound calls based off of an event happening in HubSpot, like someone opening an email or a deal falling into your pipeline, and then also be able to trigger SMS based off of things like, a missed call. So somebody calls me, I get a missed call activity in HubSpot, fire off an SMS to let them know I'm on a call right now. I'll call them back as soon as it's done. Here's my Calendly link. Feel free to click on it and set a time to call me back. You guys, I imagine, could use that when you guys are trying to find times to talk to people. And most customers could. The cool thing about the SMS automation and call automation is it's pretty universal, right? Some of the outbound dialing functionality is really more sales team centric, but really the automation side applies to everybody. I don't think there's a team we've dealt with that couldn't be helped in some way through automations. And you guys do such a good job of it with email. Really, we're just allowing you guys to do that same good job with voice and SMS. Any questions about how that works? I know that's a little trickier.
No, I think we're good.
Yeah. So
And
overall,
I know we are coming up on
are we coming
the
short on
half
time?
hour.
Okay, yeah.
So I don't know if anybody has a hard stop. Feel free to jump off. I think we can go on our end for those that can stay, probably another
Okay.
like 5 or 10 minutes.
Awesome. Okay, great. So the one thing I do want to cover, like the major takeaways, right? Because I am keeping you guys late on a Wednesday. Beyond just the functionality of Kixie as it applies to the end user, I really have you guys on the phone because I want to talk a lot about, what Kixie does for you guys, how it makes your guys' job easier, how it helps your guys' sales teams, and how it helps you guys' CS teams. So on the sales side, you guys are sales engineers. You're working with sales teams all the time. I love working with the guys' sales teams. I have been really strongly over the last 6 months especially. And so there's been some great revelations of how Kixie can help with that sales process. So one thing Kixie can really do, probably first and foremost, is it can help you when you're dealing with customers who are stuck on all-in-one dialing solutions. So especially sales teams are really reticent to leave in a calling environment that they're familiar with that lets them make a lot of outbound calls to one that may be more efficient overall, especially for the marketing side and the rest of the organization. Well, it's tough. If the rainmakers don't want to leave 5.9 because it lets them make a bunch of calls and leave automatic voicemail messages, then you're going to have a tough time getting them over to HubSpot. What Kixie lets them do is it lets them bring over all that advanced outbound dialing functionality that they love from 5.9 or from Genesis or from Connect and Sell or from Close.io or any of those kind of separate solutions and bring it into the HubSpot environment. It makes the salespeople happy. It gives them functionality above and beyond those other dialers they didn't even know they needed, but they could definitely make use of once they're there. Stuff like AI-powered local presence dialing, the automations around text messaging and calling, that sort of stuff, and gives them the features that they know they need or want, like being able to rapidly dial and use voicemail drop and maybe do some local presence dialing, that sort of thing. It also helps compete against Salesforce and their Lightning dialer. So a lot of times when we're dealing with potential HubSpot customers, they're also considering either a Zoho with its triggered automation and an outbound dialing solution like Ring.io, or they're looking at, let's say, Salesforce, and Salesforce, like always, is offering to throw in their Lightning dialer for free if they'll only jump onto Salesforce. And by the way, the Lightning dialer lets you dial automatically at certain times a day, and it allows for local presence dialing. Well, this solution allows them to dial not just at arbitrary times a day, hoping that it'll be a good time to connect. It actually allows them to dial at specific times that are smart, right? At triggering events when someone, tries to call you and you miss their call, or when someone, opens an email you've sent them, or someone first falls into your pipeline. Those are smart times to make that call to somebody as opposed to just a random time. And then it also gives them local presence dialing that's backed by an AI-powered backbone so that the numbers won't show up as spam like they would with Salesforce's Lightning dialer. And it'll be on them to rip and replace those numbers. Oh, and by the way, the Salesforce charges extra for that whenever you replace numbers, like they always do stuff. Right? So it's really great for those difficult sales opportunities, especially for ones involving sales teams, right? Where you want to make them happy, and an organization isn't going to move on to HubSpot if the rainmakers aren't happy. The other thing it really does that affects both the CS and the sales team is make ROI easier by allowing you to really emphasize increasing efficacy of sales and outbound voice and SMS cadence. So by being able to say, okay, look, with a platform like HubSpot and Kixie using automations and using voicemail drop, we're able to have a much higher pickup rate. We're able to make 30% more calls. And now the prospect of spending some money on HubSpot, it doesn't seem as daunting, right? Because now they're like, oh, okay, we'll more than make that back up easy just by doing the math. Like we got on a test of Kixie, we got on a trial of HubSpot. Our guys are making 20, 30% more calls. The pickup rate's way higher. Now they can justify spending that extra money on HubSpot because it's harder sometimes to do the math around marketing and stuff and be able to really easily see the return. But it's really easy for sales teams. It's really easy to know if your pickup rate's going up, your close rate's going up, if the number of calls you're making is going up, that sort of thing. Now on the CS side, it matters for two main reasons. It matters really for retention, and it matters for being able to upgrade people. So the first thing I would cover as you guys deal with CS teams is sometimes people are on HubSpot, they're really happy with HubSpot, and the idea of getting them to upgrade to a tier that allows for automations is a tough sell. right? The idea of being able to move up to automations based on some kind of aspirational dreams of enrolling people in some more email campaigns, or maybe making it a little easier to move deals in their pipeline and that sort of thing. Again, it's tough to show an ROI on that and to get them to really do the math and think it's worth it to upgrade. But if that upgrade now means they can automate voice and automate SMS, now that sale is much easier. So you can get those guys to upgrade their version of HubSpot to a higher tier much more easily. And then it helps for retention, because we've found, especially when we look internally at the numbers, when the more people are enmeshed in a platform, and I know you guys know this too, the more they're using all the features of HubSpot, the less likely they are to leave it. So by giving them an environment in which they're likely to use automations in HubSpot, and by allowing them to get a lot more out of the automations they do set up in HubSpot, it makes it way harder for them to leave. Like, it's one thing for someone to be on HubSpot using that dial pattern, air call, making calls out of it, having those calls be tracked and recorded. They can uproot and leave and move over to Salesforce or Zoho or Pipedrive really easily. They also have basic dialers that integrate. The transition isn't very hard. They port their numbers over, they move the data, done. Well, if they have automations built out in HubSpot to do triggered SMS based off of events, if they've got lead calls based off of email opens, if they've got a whole sales process that's built around these automations and workflows, they're not leaving. Like, they're going to stick around HubSpot, and that's going to make the total lifetime value of those customers much higher. Now, I know we're running short on time, so you did mention, Sarah, wanting to cover a little bit about these use cases. I think I'll talk about Grant Cardone first, and then if we have other time, I can cover another use case. But Grant's a fun one just because, first of all, who here knows Grant Cardone? Who here has ever heard of him? Any of you guys? You guys are sales engineers and not salespeople. That's the issue. Grant Cardone is like, think of him as like a Tony Robbins for salespeople. He's like huge. He's like the salesman's salesperson. He has tons of videos all over the internet. If you go to any sales subreddit or sales forum, they're always talking about Grant Cardone. He's got podcasts and all of this cool stuff. Real heavy sales people, right? They are salespeople for salespeople. Hundreds of users. And they recently moved over to HubSpot, and then they needed to transition to a more advanced dialing platform. They were in a tricky position. They liked HubSpot, but HubSpot didn't have the outbound calling capabilities they really wanted. And they wanted you guys for the marketing side, right? Grant's huge on marketing. He sells himself like, Donald Trump sells himself, right? Which is frequently, often, and vociferously. And so using HubSpot for the marketing side was a no-brainer. Using them for the sales side was tricky because the salespeople were kind of revolting. They wanted a dialing platform that allowed for like automated calls and being able to leave voicemail messages. And as a real sales organization, it was hard to prevent them from revolting and wanting to leave, to go to an all-in-one solution like Five9 that would handle some of their contacts. And at the end of the day, salespeople are really about making their calls and closing deals, and whether or not it actually captures the data well and they can run reporting and analytics and that kind of stuff, they're less concerned about that. And that's one of the things that HubSpot can do. I mean, these all-in-one dialers are, let's face it, they're crappy CRMs. They might be great dialers, but they're really bad at doing what the CRM does, what you guys do best, which is really manage contacts and be able to do A/B testing and do marketing campaigns and be able to see, a lot of metrics. They don't really do that well. So what we did was we stepped in and we really helped them get more out of HubSpot. So we helped them be much happier with HubSpot through those automations, right? We allowed them to set up automatic calls. We allowed them to set up SMS automation around when people didn't show for meetings or when people called in and reps weren't available. We allowed them to be proactive in terms of their outreach and more aggressive with local presence styling. So one of the neat features I didn't mention about AI-powered local presence is that it's progressive. So Hannah, if Alex calls you twice in a day or 3 times in a day trying to get a hold of you, it's going to rotate numbers. So it doesn't seem like he's blowing up your phone. For Grant, this was huge. A lot of their salespeople are really big on catching people in between meetings or when they're available and getting a live person on the other end. But they didn't want to run afoul of pissing off people by seeming like they were calling them all the time. So they were huge on that, on being able to adopt an AI-powered local presence dialer, have it rotate numbers as they made outbound calls, and be able to be more aggressive with getting live people on the line. And then lastly, it helped them really make the idea of upgrading to the more advanced tier of HubSpot to have more advanced automations to get more of their outbound sales process, a no-brainer. So it was great. I thought what it was most archetypal for me was in the way it emphasized Kixie not just as being additive to HubSpot, but really being synergistic with it. So I see a lot of the integration partners as being additive, like, oh, I've got HubSpot and now I can send text messaging and maybe that text messaging logs. But really, HubSpot isn't making the SMS more powerful or isn't making the calling more powerful. It just is existing on the side. What the cool thing about Kixie is that really it's synergistic, right? So, you know, our customers are getting more out of Kixie because of HubSpot and your guys' workflow automations. And the customers are also getting more out of HubSpot because of Kixie's ability to trigger automations within HubSpot and trigger automatic calls and SMS and that sort of thing. So it's been a great combination. Or, you know, anecdotally, like for me, in collaborating with you guys on deals, I've been running the metrics on what our close rate is when I'm working in conjunction with a HubSpot person, and it's over double what our close rate is otherwise. It's over 70% instead of 35%, 36%.
Yeah, and Dave, this is Mike at HubSpot. I know a bunch of us have to run to another meeting.
Yeah.
But really, really appreciate the time. Did you book this through Alessio?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, he probably can link us up if you want to talk about the workflow piece. But really appreciate your time.
I'd love to. Anybody who has to run, my email is david@kixie.com, just david@kixie.com. Shoot me an email because I'd love for two things. One, to connect with you just about the meeting and talk about any other questions you have. But also, I'd love to get you guys on a free account we have for HubSpot employees so you guys can kind of take advantage of it and also just play around with Kixie and test out different ideas you might have for automations and get comfortable with it. So when a customer comes up to you guys and mentions any of the following, let's say they mention sales team, or they mention a combination of voice and SMS, or they mention anything about automating calls. Those are all great buzzwords to listen for, to recommend Kixie. And I think the more we can make you guys comfortable with exactly how it works, the more comfortable you'll be recommending it, and the more you'll know when it's a good fit or not. You know, sometimes people just want a basic dialer, and we're not the best fit. So
Thanks a lot for that, Dave.
Yeah.
We do have to run on this end.
Awesome.
If there's any resources we didn't get to, feel free to shoot them over email and I can share them with the team. And thanks for your time.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much. It was great talking to you. Great seeing you guys again from Inbound, too.
Take care.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.